and then the class was distracted. Okay, let's get started from there. So now what I wanted to start from here is you guys are able to hear me properly, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So today what we wanted to discuss is we wanted to talk about a little bit about the memory management and how these particular static and non-static working nature. So these things we just wanted to discuss about. Okay, so here now we have different type of variables, right? So we have means we have the local variables, global variables, whatever it might be, and then here we'll be having static variables and non-static variables, right? So now how this particular static variables and non-static variables and the objects and then the instance variables and where this will be stored. So this is what we wanted to discuss and understand the concept of static and non-static. This session is very, very important. So please do concentrate. There will be a slightly, if you have any particular disconnects, you can ask me. If it is confused, you can ask me. Now, so in the program, if I don't define or if I don't given any particular static as a prefix, then this particular variable or this particular method would be called as non-static. And how we call the non-static? We create an object, either it's in the same class or in a different class. We create an object, and with the object, we will call the variables and methods. So if it is a static, then we will be calling directly with the class name dot variable or class name dot method. So this is how non-static variables and static variables would be called each other. So this is how we will be calling them. Are we clear till this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now this is how the static variables and non-static variables would be created and then accessed. Now, when we create an object for accessing the non-static variables, we create the object. When we created the object, so this object will be created in heap memory. Now, for an example, now for XUV, yesterday we have been created the class, right? So for the XUV, now I created an object obj1. Okay, so now the memory would be created here. Means how I'm trying to create it, XUV obj equal to new XUV. So now this is how I'll be creating this, right? Now this is a class name. This is object reference. This would be called as object reference, and this would be called as a new keyword, which it will allocate you the memory. And this would be your constructor. So now new keyword will allocate the memory into the heap, and XUV will say that this constructor will say that, hey, I need this much of space. Means for an example, I need 16 bytes of space. So that particular 16 bytes of space will be written over here. It will be given. So that according to that, that space will be allocated in the heap. Now I created the second object. The size of this one is same 16 bytes. And if I created the third object, the size of this one also 16 bytes. Now if I create 1,000, all the 1,000 bytes means all these particular things will be created over here. Now I created that, right? So now I created this particular object. Now whatever the non-static things in that particular class XUV, I can access this. Now variables, methods, and all, because I created the Xerox copy, right? Now what I'll try to do. So now one thing is for sure, object is created in heap memory. Now where is this instance variables will be created? Okay, what is instance variable? We discussed yesterday, right?
Calling variable by object.
So
When
now
we're calling with an object.
we created an object. Calling variable with an object is not called an instrument. So now when we create an object, now in this particular object, I'll be having all my Xerox copies of my variables and methods, right? So now I created the object in the heap memory, object 1, object 2. I created multiple objects. Now when I created an object, object means what? It's an instance of a class. Instance of a class means what? In our layman language, it will call a Xerox copy. Now I taken the Xerox copy of a class. Now in a class, I have 5 variables and 5 methods. Now I taken the Xerox copy. How many methods and variables I'll be having it here?
5 methods and 5
methods, 5 variables.
Now this is Xerox copy 1. Now second Xerox copy I taken. How many variables and how many methods will be there?
5
5 and 5.
and 5.
If I taken 1,000 also, it would be same. See, the size also same, because variables and methods will not change. So these things are also, it will be same. Now,
Sir, can you explain once again? I missed that one.
see, now for an example, I'm creating an, this is what my main class. I'm creating an obj1, obj2. Now, when I created the obj1, whatever the variables and methods are here, the same thing would be created, right? Means this is an instance of a class. Means it's exactly Xerox copy, right? So now it will be having that particular same variables and same methods. And here also, if I create another object for that particular class, I'll be having same. See, means it's like your PAN card making multiple Xerox. Now, what you have been done is, now this particular Xerox copy, you have been given it for SIM card here, to get a SIM card. And this Xerox copy, you have been given it for a bank day. Okay, means Aadhaar card you have been taken, you are applying for some loan and you are getting some SIM card. So that's the reason you have been given the 2 Xerox copies. Now what this guy have done is, he taken this particular SIM card as a PAN card Xerox copy and slightly modified your data in the Xerox copy. So which is called fake certificates, fake things, they will be doing it, right? That's how he have done the same, some changes. If you make some changes in this Xerox copy, will it impact in your original copy?
No.
So whatever the changes he wanted to do it in his Xerox copy, he can do it, but it will not impact in your main classes. The same concept applicable for the objects also. Now, instance variables are nothing but instance variables or instance methods means, now I created the Xerox copy, right? For that Xerox copy, I take means whatever the variables are there. So these variables are called as instance variables. And these things are called as an instance method. Now, where these particular instance variables and methods will be there?
In the heap.
Because the object is created in the heap. So now where these instance variables and methods would be there?
In the heap.
In the heap memory only. See, Java consists of a couple of memories. Means one is heap memory and the stack memory. Now, what the things we will be storing in the stack memory? See, all the non-static variables. Now, whatever the non-static variables we have it, all the non-static variables will be stored in the stack memory. All the objects will be stored in the heap memory. All the instance variables and instance methods will be stored in the heap memory. What is the instance variable instance methods means? When we create an object reference for a class, for that particular object can have its own variables. Means if you see once we make a Xerox copy, it will have its own methods and variables. So now that methods will be called as instance methods and variables will call as instance variables. So this is how these things will be work for us. So now that is what, and it stores in the heap memory and stack memory. Now, hey, boss, I understand this non-static variables where it stores, non-static things where it stores. But where is static memory will be there? I'll come there. Now, before coming to here, one pointer I was leaving here. Now, another pointer is, hey, if I make the changes in this particular class, will it reflect in the object level? Means in the Xerox copy, if I make the changes, will it impact in the main class?
No.
As I said, answer no, it will not impact. So now the main class remains the same. So now let's see how that implementation will be happen. Why it will be changed? So that is the thing which we wanted to understand. Now it is very simple. Why it will not change means I'm not touching my original copy. I'm always touching my Xerox copies. Means for an example, if I change your value here, for an example, I taken a value car color. Car color is before indigo blue.
Black.
And now I'm trying to change it to black. Now, okay, I'll show that particular program so that you can understand much more clear. Okay, so hope you guys have seen this yesterday, right? Non-static and static, and then the main method. So now this is how I'm trying to call it. Now I created. Now I keep this static apart for some time, because I don't want to talk anything about static now. I'll keep this one. Now in this particular static, okay. So now the static. We have this is a
Non-static.
non-static. I need to cover this. Okay, so now if you see here, now I have a non-static variable, and then this is what I wanted to look at. So now I just created the object and I'm calling it. Now, if I created another object, so will the values would be changed? See, now I'm creating the obj 1 now. This is 1, and okay, so this is 0, and then this is now 1. Okay, now this is value 1. And I'm calling that particular intervals variable. See, if I'm calling with one object and then another object. Now, okay, for your namesake, I'll create another object also. Okay. So now, so can I create more number of objects for the same class?
Yes.
That's
can
like a
create
Xerox copies.
Xerox
I can
copies.
give any
As
number
many
of
as-
course we can. Now we have 3 objects created. Now let's see the output for this. Okay, so now if you see here, now this is for the first class. So now what I'll try to do, ns variable from first obj. Okay. So that you can have clarity. So now this is second. Okay, now you see the output. So now we can see it from the first object we got the output 4 wheels and the 4 wheels. Second object we are getting the 4 wheels, 4 wheels. Third object we get this one. So now the original, what is the original value? 4 and 4. We are getting that values. Okay. Now what I'll try to do here, I wanted to take this value. Okay. I wanted to change it into 10. What it will happen?
10. First it will print 10 instead of 4.
4 and 10.
See, what I'm trying to do, I'm changing the int wheels equal to 10. And here I'm changing the int wheel equal to 40. But I'm not changing anything here. Now what the values will be printed for here? So what the value print here? If I execute this one here, how much
10 and 10. 4 and 10 first.
what the value it will print here?
10.
10,
wheels.
sir. 10 wheels, sir. Number of
40.
wheels from NS from
40,
40.
40. Next 10.
10.
4,
4.
4, 1.
4 or 10?
4.
4, sir. 4, sir. You have
40.
commented that.
4.
4, sir. 4.
No, 4. 4.
We have changed the object XUV value, not the
40. I
object
think 40
XUV2
will be
value.
4.
4, sir.
Everywhere we have changed the value of object XUV set, so only that value will execute as a change. But
But I
while
asked,
printing,
see now what is the answer? Now here people said 10, here people said 40,
Yeah.
here the people saying that 4 or 10. So what is the
No,
answers?
10, 4, 4, sir.
Any other answers?
10, 4, 4, sir.
Oh, 10.
10, 4, 4. Yes, you need to understand that. You can't see that. No?
Yeah, it's better.
Your voice is choppy. I'm not able to hear you properly. Okay. So the answer is 10, 4, 4. Why? Because now you just imagine that now I just changed. If I see here, I'm using the same object here, right? Did I increase for this particular object?
No.
Then why it will print 10, 40? Because by default value is 4. So only this guy changed that he has been manipulated that particular thing. How it can be reflected for these guys? Now, if I have been called this particular value here, then it will be printing me that. You know, for an example, now if I have been, now what would be the answer? What is the answer now?
10, 4.
Printing
10,
4, 44.
10, 4,
44.
44.
10.
10, 4, 40.
44.
10, 4, 4.
Because
4, 4.
we have been incremented this particular object. You see, for the same object, the value is 10. The same object wheels we have increased to 40. And then we have been printed first this particular value. By default, it will come 4. And for this one, see now, because this object is different, we've taken the default value. This object is this object value which I have been taken 40. And this is object for 4. Actually speaking, what it was happening, when you go to the internal memory, if you see here, this is what heap meant, right? Now I created 3 objects. Now obj 1, obj 2, obj 3. Now in my stack memory, okay, where my non-static variables should be stored.
Stack memory.
So now here the int wheel equal to 4. Now wheel equal to 4. I given it. This is what my original value. I taken the Xerox copies. 3 Xerox copies I have been taken. Now with this particular Xerox copy, now I change the value. Means now the address of this one, the memory space of this one is different. The memory space for this one is different. The memory space for this one is different, right? In the heap memory, I have address 101, address 102, and address 103. In 101, my int wheel value changed to how much? First we changed it to
10.
10. First we changed to 10, then we changed it to 40. Now here I didn't change anything. Here I didn't change anything. So now what it would be my default? So I bought my Xerox copy. The Xerox copy value is 4 and 4. But here what it taken? My Xerox copy value is 4, overridden by 10, overridden by 40. Now my current value for the object 1 will be stored as 40. Because obj2, it will have a separate memory. obj3, it will have separate memory in the heap memory. So who will allocate the memory? Who will give the says that I require this much space?
New will allocate the memory and constructor will give the information
give the
about
information
how much
regarding
memory is
how much
required
Okay.
at the class level.
So now, if you see here, that allocates it then. So every time when I create an object, there would be a new instance means new memory copy will be created in the heap memory also. But it will take the copy from Xerox copy from the static and it fetches all this particular data. That's it. Is it hard to understand? Any questions?
No, sir.
You want me to repeat? Did you understood? Or you want me to repeat the concept?
Repeat.
Okay. So now, if I wanted to access the non-static variables, So the non-static variables can be called with the objects. Non-static members, either it's a variables or methods, I need to call them with this particular object creation. Now I'll be creating an object reference. Now this is what object reference creation, or people used to call this as an object creation. Now this is a class name, this is an object reference name, and this is a new keyword, and this is a constructor. New keyword will help you to allocate the memory. Constructor will say that, hey, I need this much of space and do the initialization and what blah 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 what we discussed. Now with this particular object, I'll be trying to access all the variables and methods, either in the same class or in a different class. This is a procedure where I need to access the non-static variables or non-static members. Now, all the objects would be created in the heap memory, and non-static variables and non-static methods would be created in the stack memory. Now, when I created an object, there would be a Xerox copy would be created. So now where it would be created? It would be created in the heap memory. Now, when I created this one, so now whatever the variable values, default values and everything would be copied into this particular memory. Now, if I access that particular object with the variable with this particular object and override that particular value, it will go and change in the particular copy only. It will not touch in any other objects. So now always these objects will refer to this one. So it can override the values and it will not touch, remain untouched for the other objects. And it will take the default values from the stack memory and it will have it. So this is how the non-static will work on. Means every object will have a different copy in the memory. It was the same thing. Now every Xerox copy will be in a different paper, right? In a different sheet. I can make 1,000 copies and I can distribute that. And the content would be same. But now if I wanted to manipulate the content, I can do that manipulation of the content. So that is what non-static variables or non-static methods. Mostly we should understand from the variables point of view. Any questions?
No, not as of now, sir.
Okay. Now let's jump into the stack memory. Sorry, static variables and then these things. Where these static variables would be stored? Any answers? Where the static variables would be stored?
Heap memory.
Same in the stack, sir.
So you guys not gone through the videos even now. Okay. The static variables will be stored in perm-gen memory. So permanent generator memory. So this is called as perm-gen memory. So this is one of the kind of memory in Java. So now how we have heap, how we have stack. So permanent generated memory is also there. So now all the static variables would be stored in this particular perm-gen memory, or this would be called as class loader. Before executing a class, for every class there would be a perm-gen memory. There these particular values would be stored. So you can say that class loader, or you can say that perm-gen memory. Permanent generated memory. Now, what is this permanent generated memory? You see that class loader means when I started to execute a program. So now program is nothing but this all my program, right? Now, when I started to execute my program, all my class means static variables and static methods would be loaded at that point of time. Means all the things would be stored in common, this particular memory. Now, what it will happen, I created 4 classes now. Okay, so now this is my car class. And under car class, I created XUV. I created Skoda. I created Merc. And then I'll be created the BMW. 4 classes I have been created. Now, in car class, I created a static variable which is a color, which is black. Now, if I wanted to use it in XUV, how I can access this particular color, the static variable color into this XUV class?
With the help of class name.
Class name dot method name for color.
So now car dot color. If I call this one, what is the value I'll be getting it?
Black. Black.
Black.
Okay. Now in Scholar class, I wanted to call the color. So how I need to call?
Skoda dot color.
No, the method is in the different class, so we have to call that class name and then color.
What's the answer? Yes, it is very simple. I don't know why you guys are why the team is getting confused. In XUV, if I wanted to call, I call with car dot color. Now in Skoda, if I wanted
Same
to call
car
this
dot
car,
color.
then
Car
here
dot
also it is a
color.
car dot
Same.
color. Okay, now in Merc
Car
Car dot color.
and BMW.
Car dot color.
Now wherever you wanted to call this particular thing, you need to call with the class name only, right?
Yes.
See now, wherever you go, you will have your own surname. So the people will call with your own surname only, right? They will not change your surnames. See, for an example, in India, you have one surname, and in US, you will have separate surname.
No.
No.
Everywhere you go, you will have the same surnames, right? Now, when I'm calling this particular object with that particular surname, so you will obviously have the same surname, right? What's there?
Connection.
So now here, whenever you're trying to call this particular static variables into any class, so then that will be having the class name dot variable name, class name dot variable name. If it is a method, then
Class name.
Class name dot method name, and if it is in the same class itself, then only method name will work.
wherever you do, see now the procedures are same, either in the same class or in a different class. So even in the same class, you call with the class name so that it would be easy for you to understand, either in the same class or in a different class. I'll be calling with the class name dot, you'll be getting it.
Yes.
So now this is how, if I see, now what is the value here I'm getting it?
Black.
And here what I'll be getting it?
Black.
And here what I'll be getting it?
Black.
And here?
Black.
Now, what I'll try to do is, I'll change the color in the Skoda. I wanted to change the color to indigo. Now I change the car color equal to indigo. Okay. Now if I call here in Merc, what is car dot color will come?
Black.
Black.
In BMW,
Black.
Black.
in car color,
Black.
Black.
in
Only in
XUV,
this code.
Black.
Black only.
was how it comes black. You see here, I have separate memories here, so that everything is a different memory, so that I can store different values. But here I have a common memory. If my value changes to indigo here, wherever you go, it will become indigo only, right? How come you get the black? See now, it have a common memory. So if I change the car color equal to indigo from black, then everywhere you're accessing, then that color would be indigo only, right? How come you get the black now? In case of non-static objects, I'll have a separate object, so that the values will be separate. As this is Xerox copy, I'll be having multiple Xerox copies. I can change in a Xerox copy, it will not impact in the original. But here, I'm directly accessing the original copy. And I'm changing the value, and all things will point to the same memory allocation. So that now whenever I change a value in any other class, will it be impacted or not?
Everywhere it will be reflected.
If it is a different memory, then there will be no reflection, but it is pointing to the same memory, so that whenever there is the same value. So if I change a value from any of the class, it will go and impact that one. So this is the difference between a static variable and non-static variable. So static variable will have the common memory allocation. Non-static variable have different memory allocations. So that if I take a value and change, if I change this value so that it can be reflected in all the classes, you call them in 1,000 classes, in all 1,000 classes, it will change. If I change in one place, it reflected in all the places. Example, there is a school. Okay, so for this particular school, okay, CPS, Chennai Public School, or whatever the school. So I have this particular school. Now I have 1,000 students. Each name means the team names are here. Take Prema, Hemant, Sujit, Swati, Swapna. So all these people are there here. 1,000 students are there. Now all student names are common. Student name is different. Every student, the 1,000 student names would be different. Age would be different. Date of birth will be different. Addresses will be different. Blood groups are different. What would be the common for all the 1,000 students?
School name.
Full name.
School name. School name is common. Now, I changed from CPS to DPS. Chennai Public School to, okay, HPS, Hyderabad Public School. Now I changed the school name. So now this is, so now you need to understand which I need to define as a static and which I need to define as a non-static. Now these names are having a different one. Which you will define it as a static variable and which you will be defining as a non-static variables.
School name is static and
School name will be static.
Student details and all
Student
will
name
be
is
coming
non-static.
Others non-static.
Because everyone will, if I change the school name for one student, for all the school name, means for all the 1,000 students, it will be changed.
Yes.
Now what I'll do, if at all this particular student names I wanted to give it, I'll define it as a non-static variables, student name, student age, student date of birth, and then address, blood group. Now I create an object. So first object name is Sujit. Second object name is Swati. Third object name is Imran. Fourth object name is Balakrishna. Now for this particular students, the name, age, date of birth, blood group, everything would be different. Now this object will store Balakrishna's detail. This object will store complete Imran details. This object will store complete Soumya's details. Now you see it, what you need to understand is which it can have the multiple values. So those things we need to store it with the non-static variables. And static variables, if you change one in any of the class, if you change one value, everywhere the value of that one will be changed during your execution. During your execution, okay, that is mandatory. So always you remember that playing with static is very, very complicated because it will impact. If I change one place in 1,000 classes, if I use that variable in all the 1,000 classes, it will be changed. So you have to be very cautious in defining the static variable. Whereas the non-static variable, so that is a local copy, so that would be not a problem. So you need to understand where I should use static and where I should use non-static variables. So this is what the major differences between the static and non-static. Guys, this you need to practice, then only you will understand. I told you, right, create one particular class and you can create multiple classes. Now create static variables, non-static variables in all these classes. Access in this particular class, create multiple objects, see how these particular multiple objects are working and how the values are getting changed, how it is working for non-static and how it is working for static. So this exercise, you need to vigorously practice. Then only you will understand the static and non-static. You will get stuck at multiple places because if you don't understand static and non-static, you can't even go for the next steps. So the basic thing, what are the things you need to understand now by this time is, what is an object, what is a class, how I should create an object, and what is the memory management systems of this. and how this particular static and non-static works. So these are the topics which we have been covered till now. So these are the things how you can know it or learn it is only by practicing it. Until unless you practice and you derive. You practice, you derive. Hey, first I'll create a class. I'll define all my non-static variables and static variables. I'll create another class. Into this class, I need to access all the non-static variables, how I accessed, and all the static variables, how I accessed. I create multiple objects, and I'll create changing the values of this, and I'll create this particular static. Now I'll change the values of static, and then I'll write out and see where the values are. So then you'll get all these things. If you don't practice in such a way, you will never learn it. And if you don't understand this now, throughout your OOPS concept, you will not understand. And because on this one, inheritance will depend, polymorphism will depend. And if you don't understand inheritance, polymorphism, you will not understand the interfaces. If you don't understand the interfaces, you will not learn this anymore. Now, this is a completely linked concepts. So that you need to learn it. I don't want to get into once again the discussion. I'll practically show you now. We have been discussed on the static, right? Now let's see the non-static now, how this works. I told you, right? Now I just wanted to call that particular variable. So now what I'll try to do, I'll comment all other things. Okay. Now I'm trying to find this particular static on it, right? Now let's execute this and see. So now if you see here, I'm executing. Vaishu, can you go on mute? Okay. So now if you see here, now here we have the XUV class. So now what it was trying to do, it was going to this car fuel. In the car fuel, I'll be going for this particular XUV class. And what it was trying to return me, so it was trying to print me the fuel type and then car color. Now the car color, which is black, and the return type of the car fuel is diesel. Now that's the reason it was trying to print me the fuel, diesel, and then black color. Now how I have called this one? So the fuel type, okay, the fuel type, it is a static variable directly I have been called. Either I can call directly or with the class name, I can call this, right? So now what I need to call, so here I need to call the fuel type. Have fuel. Okay, so now, oh, okay, I need to call this variable, right? I'm sorry. So here we have been given. Actually, I can call the directly or with the class name I have been called, and the value is stored here. That particular value we have been printed here. So this is how these statements are printing. So printing. So now I'm saying that. So it went to this particular static method. Then it started printing this, and it printed diesel, it returned the diesel, and then it printed the black color also. So till here everyone is clear, right? Now what I'll try to do is, I have been created this Skoda also, right? So the Skoda class. Actually, I just wanted to bring out you the accurate information. So that's the reason I was just thinking. So how I can get that. I wanted to call that particular static variables of this one. I'll go what I'll try to do. I'll go to Skoda. Okay. I'll try to have here main method. In the main method, I wanted to call this. What is this value? Car color. So now how I can call Okay, I go here and I call this particular car color. I wanted to store this value, right? So I think I can directly copy this one. So now when I have did this one, what would be the output for this? We'll be getting it. What would be the output I'll be getting here? So Prema, I'm not able to hear you. Your voice is choppy. I think you need to take care of your internet. See here now once again, as it is from the class XUV, if I go here, it was first try to print me this, and return value is diesel and the color is black. Now the output shouldn't be changed. It should print me the same. XUV, class fuel, diesel and black. Nothing has been changed now. Cool. Now what I'll try to do, I'll try to change this particular car colors. Now when I go for this particular car color equal to, now I'll be changing this one to indigo. Okay, I just given the indigo color. Now if I started to print this one, now what it will be done? It will try to print
First
the
black
color.
and then indigo.
Then indigo.
Because till here the color is black and after that one it's indigo. Now wherever you access this particular car color, that will print you only indigo, not black.
Sir, in the XUV class also, if we run now, then it will be indigo.
But here in the XUV class at that point of time it's black, right? See now this main method, initialization will happen. See now when I execute it, first this class loader will come. So at that point of time, black.
It
So
will
now
be black.
it will print you black only. But now if I call anywhere else this XUV.color in any of your execution, because see as of now you are seeing only one executions in your class, but during the executions of big programs, once the value assigned, that can be called anywhere. Think that the execution is going for 10-15 minutes. Now when the execution is going for 10-15 minutes, all during your execution time, the value of the car color would be indigo.
Indigo.
Because first the class loader may have the black, but I change the color to indigo. Now wherever I use the class XUV.color throughout my executions for next 10 minutes, wherever I call this particular value, it will be printed me only indigo, not black. Because this all pointers to the same memory. That is the reason. So we have to be very cautious.
Suppose we go now in the Merc class and access this XUV.str car color, then it should come indigo only.
Okay, you do that and then show it to me.
Okay.
See, understand once again, I'm saying it. When you doing this one for means whenever the main method starts, now here it is still black. Now, if I'm continuing this program and calling that anything Merc or anywhere, if I'm in the Merc class, if I'm trying to call, so when I change during the execution only, it will be changed, not in all the time. So first time it will be black. Now once the execution reached to the line number 15, then it overrides the value with the indigo. Now whatever the classes, now from here if I'm calling any particular classes and I'm trying to do it, so then the value of that one would be the indigo. So whatever the updated value would be there, because these all things would be pointing to the same memory allocation. It will not have the different allocations. So now for this is a class, and for this particular permanent general memory, so we assign the color equal to black. Now this is in the car class. Now even if it is in the XUV or in the Merc or in the bench or BMW or Audi, now whatever the class you go, you will be calling it as car.color, car.color, car.color. No, we go for everywhere. Now if we change the value at any of the class during the execution, the value of this one changed to that one. Now whenever I execute in any of the class during that particular execution. If I'm calling if I jump to any other class and try to execute that executions, the value of that one will be this, because it will have in a common memory. So that is how this particular static variables will be working. But whereas non-static, every object will have a different copy. So now if I change the value here, that will not impact in any other copies. So that is a basic difference between a static and then non-static. Just you need to practice this, then only you will be understanding this one.
Yes.
Okay, so any further questions on this? On static variables, non-static variables, how it can be accessed, where it can be accessed. So now you understand what is static and what is non-static, and their memory allocations also, where the memory, how this particular things would be stored into the respective memories, so that you should be able to understand. Any questions out of this?